We're going to start the Transportation Advisory Board meeting. However, we do not have a quorum this evening, so we won't be able to make any votes or motions. So first off, I need to see if everybody's in an agreement that we can continue to do an informational-only meeting without voting and motions. Yeah. Okay.
And I'll still do roll call.
Okay, we'll still do roll call.
Taylor Wickland.
Here.
David McInerney.
Present.
Steve Lehner.
Here. Okay, we're going to move past number 3, which was approved minutes, since we can't. We can do communications from staff, and then go to public comments. So Phil, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, good evening, members of TAB. This is I'm Phil Greenwald, Transportation Planning Manager with the city, and we do. I'm trying to think of the different things that we need to chat about as far as communications from staff, but they're all in our information items. So I think we'll be good to chat there with you about some of those items. We really wanted to formalize them this week or this month because there was a lot more to them. With that being said, I'm trying to think if we've had any. We did have a council retreat this last weekend, and we did see Taylor there. So, board member Wickland, sorry, at that event. So thank you for joining us and being part of that. Your comments were read into record, so we appreciate your comments at that. A lot of good stuff at the council retreat. It was a lot of transportation materials, so you will be busy in the next year, if not. We like to say in 2023, but in the next year you'll be busy, and hopefully we can get some folks. Unfortunately, Patrick did submit his resignation, and so Patrick's no longer able to be part of this board. He is moving away from Longmont, so with that he can't be part of the board anymore, and so he did submit his resignation. So we're very sorry to see Patrick go. We're going to start mid-year recruitments, just like we do every year with this board, but this one will take on a little bit more meaning, as we believe we only had 4 people or 5 people before, and now we're down to 4. So this is a 7-member board, so anybody out there who's interested in applying, please submit your name as soon as you can into the portal. There's an application portal that we've all put you through as team or board members. So we appreciate you doing that, and we will request that more people join and be part of this board, this important board, and we look forward to filling out the rest of the seats in July. Hopefully, we do our recruitments, and that's going to be one of the things we talk about, is the recruitments that we do for this. In fact, I'll probably just, I think it was something we were going to talk about at the very end, but that's something that we'll have to start working toward in April, because we have basically April, May, and June to get those done. And June is really when we have to submit to the city council. So that's very important. So April will be a big startup month. We'll be looking for people to sit on that, probably a 2-member board or a 2-member subcommittee like we had last time. So I'll ask at least 2 of you. If you all 3 want to, or 4 want to be on that, that's fine too. Just, we'll talk more about that in April. So thank you for your time on that. I believe that's all we have from staff.
Okay. We'll move on to public comments. And just to reiterate, 3 minutes per. It's so great to see as many folks here that want to make comments. We like that. So with that, we'll go ahead and start. Did you have any names that you wanted to start off on the list? Okay, Benjamin would be first. Thank you.
3 minutes? Is there like a timer? Okay. Okay. So I'm Benjamin Grabmeyer. I live at 10640 Barron Circle in Firestone. And I'd like to make a few comments today regarding which was brought up in the last meeting regarding the regional EV plan. And I would like to bring up some numbers, but I think that's not a good idea. Electric vehicles ultimately it's a private vehicle that can usually sits about maybe 4 to 6 people if you're lucky. It definitely does not comply with the goal of the city in Vision Longmont to reduce the number of vehicle miles traveled. A lithium battery contained in an electric vehicle, you need to mine about 90,000 pounds of ore per battery. It needs about 25 pounds of lithium, 35 pounds of cobalt, which you could fit about 1,000 smartphones worth of electricity in them. You need 110 pounds of graphite, 90 pounds of copper, and 400 pounds of steel just to get your battery working. And to give context for the mining aspect, lithium brines is what you get the lithium from. And a brine and the pure lithium, is only like 10% of the actual brine itself. So you're at a severe disadvantage. Same thing for cobalt. You're only getting 10% out of that. So you have to mine about 30,000 pounds for your 30 pounds of cobalt to fit into that battery. In all, you'd have to extract about 500,000 pounds of materials, move all that. Over the battery life, you could average that out. It consumes about 5 pounds of earth versus the 0.2 pounds in liquid oil equivalent. It requires and you're essentially making a battery that can fit only 1 barrel of oil, but you need 100 barrels of oil to do it. And in addition to that, you're having to transport all these materials by truck, which is 1,000% of the cost of moving it by pipeline. 75% of oil and 100% of natural gas is moved via pipeline. And so you're just going to be looking at these increased costs. 10 seconds. Okay. And that's what I have for today. Just a couple numbers to think about as you move forward. Thank you.
No, thank you, Benjamin. And Lonnie?
My email said I had 5 minutes and that this was going to be with the city council also, so I'm going to have to cut my speech a little short. Sure. Hello to the board members. My name's Lonnie Dooley. I live in Village Place Apartments, 600 Kaufman Street. I've lived in historic West Side for over 20 years. I've watched the traffic increase steadily over time. The increase in events downtown has been a great addition to making Longmont unique. Unfortunately, it's brought the expected increase in traffic, and it's come into our neighborhoods. With it, the speeding cars and drivers who don't pay attention. I spoke to neighbors who told me they always walk their kids to school just because they don't feel safe to walk them themselves, to have them walk themselves. I attended a downtown meeting a few months back to talk about what we can do to slow down traffic. It was agreed we have to change people's mindsets about driving in Longmont. Have signs that say people walk in Longmont, or whatever wording will catch people's attention. Get on the offensive with our message. Don't be on the defense saying there aren't enough police. I understand that the police are short-staffed, I get it. But to me, it seems like they've just given up. I live in Village Place Apartments right on Main Street. On weekend nights now and later in the year, it'll be every night. We hear and see cars just going by so fast. You know, they rev up at the 6th Avenue, light, and then again coming the other way, Long's Peak, and they just fly. Even everyday traffic includes people who are speeding. I don't understand why traffic safety isn't more priority to the police that we do have. We have an investment in this community, and we deserve more than hearing we don't have the personnel. People I've spoken to in my neighborhood say it's, in general, they don't feel safe walking downtown. I feel that making downtown one lane each way is a good idea. It may again remind people they have to slow down. I also think speed bumps in neighborhoods are an effective way to catch people's attention. Taking people away from their phones and other devices and making them watch the road. Getting people to realize that driving a vehicle requires their full attention. It's not a time to be multitasking. Decorated crosswalks can stand out, such as Main Street and 8th, to catch people's attention and remind them to slow down. We have many talented artistic people in our community who may be happy to display their work while doing something to help the community. Neighbors in historic Westside had been asking for crosswalks to be painted at the four corners of Central Elementary School. They'd been put off with reasons like checking the budget and doing a study to determine if it was needed. When Tony was killed, our neighbor, Tony Umeli, a neighbor was interviewed by Channel 9 News, and within 2 weeks, the crosswalks were painted. I understand that neighbors have been working with the city to add crosswalks and more safety measures on 3rd Avenue as part of the project to complete the work on 3rd. Make it a blanket project. Get crosswalks painted all over town. Use the resources we have. Let people be reminded constantly if necessary to slow down in Longmont. I'm glad the council adopted the Vision Zero initiative. It's an admirable goal and great start, so let's keep working on what we need in this town to make it safe. Can the neighborhoods do more for things for themselves? Can we help out? There's many people, citizens, and parents who want to do what we can to make things safer in Longmont. They want the council to know they will back them up if they see things being done. Thank you for hearing me.
And then I know we have two more. We don't have your names. Or I'm sorry, three, right? We have, no? Okay. If you could just give us your name and where you live.
Sure. My name is Brian O'Brien. My wife and I live at 321 Gay Street. And I would like to, I basically wanted to say thank you to the city for making some improvements around the Central Elementary School. We live on one of the southwest corner of the schoolyard, so we can see the playground and the front drive of the school. And as recent as this morning, watching it's very busy when parents drop off in the morning, especially like today when the clocks changed on Sunday morning, everybody trying to be timely. And the problem still exists. You probably know that it's not a school where people are bussed in. All the children come either walking, on a bike or a scooter, or in their parents' cars. So there is an awful lot of traffic in the morning, and the progress that's been made is appreciated. We wanted to note that crosswalks did get repainted. There were some other safety improvements that were discussed, and if there's any update on that, that would be great. But thank you for making progress on that project.
Thank you. And Phil, could we get maybe an update next week, or I should say, I'm sorry, the next meeting on the Gay Street and any of the additional improvements and when they're either, are they on schedule?
I'd have to follow up with our operations staff. We had met with several residents out several months ago, and I know we had talked and gotten on the restriping of some of the crosswalks. I think some of the other walks were and some signing was supposed to be adjusted. Those are the only improvements I'm aware of. in that area, other than the Third Avenue work that we'll be showing you shortly. But we'll double check. I think at my last drive through there, we had wanted one of the mid-block crosswalks touched up, and I don't know that that ever happened. And I think some of the signing, we are also changing one of the school zones to make it longer. So I'd have to see where our operations group is with that, but we can certainly provide an update the next meeting.
And also as a follow-up for the other comments for Lonnie, if we could look into, I know Vision Zero, we've talked about road diets and some of the things that can be done. Maybe what we could do is just make a note to see what we're addressing on Main Street in regards to the plan. Because obviously that's an important thoroughfare. That was the, I guess that was my timer, right? Yeah. And then Benjamin's comments on EV. It's well put, and we understand that. And there is a balance. I know that we've had a conversation about Vision Zero or the EV plan as it relates to that. So that's all I can add in regards to that. Welcome, Council Member Yarborough. Well, we're on zero, or we don't have a quorum tonight, so we're informational. Yeah, so no voting. All right. No other public comments. I think we'll jump to the information items, and of course, as we said, they're just information items. We won't be making any votes.
Great, good evening again, Phil Greenwald. Just wanted to go through your packet. You did mention last time that you wanted to see an update to the work plan, so that is a very quick item where we're just showing you that we did take your suggestions into the from the record into the actual work plans on the basically third to last page of your packet. I can show that here as well. So you'll see the two highlights where we made the changes to your requested changes to that work plan. I just want to make sure you're aware of that, so it didn't go unchecked. I think if it's okay with the chair, I will skip over to Vision Zero real quick before we could do the Third Avenue, because the Third Avenue is more of a work plan. We're going to go to the back tables and actually stand around. Okay. Yes, we're going to put Third Avenue at the end if that's okay with the chair. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
So just to chat a little bit about Vision Zero, we do have a resolution getting ready to go to City Council. We want to make sure it's tightened up before it does go to Council. So one item is that we'd like to bring it to you first. So we'd like to bring that to your April meeting and make sure it works for you, and then we'll basically be going the next day to City Council with it. So it's gonna be a little tight, but we would like to take whatever recommendations you have to the City Council at that same time and just make sure they're aware of any conditions or concerns you might have. Or if you want to recommend that they approve it as is, that's a possibility as well. But we want to just make sure that we're at that level when we go. So that'll be your April meeting where we do that. Again, it's in pretty good shape, but we need another. We need some time to work with it, because it's pretty integrated right now with everything that Vision Zero does, and we really want to make it City of Longmont's Vision Zero. So Vision Zero has not been adopted by any City Council action as of yet. They just did give us the go-ahead to start working on this resolution, and that we'll talk about an action plan as far as Vision Zero goes. So just to give you a heads up there. And then we'll move on to are there any questions with that? Then we'll move on to the 2024 budget discussion. That's that last page in your packet that we sent out a day after the packet went out. And I'll turn it over to Jim Engstedt.
So what, get this up here. Thank you, Phil. What we've provided is the list of projects that we are or have been working on or looking to fund in future years. And they're comprised, we broke them down into several categories. One is asset management. One is the kind of the leveraged funding projects. Leveraged funding meaning we've gotten grants for those projects, which has helped to basically stretch our city match dollars. And then some safety capacity and alternative modes projects. One of the challenges we're facing this year is that with the over the last, I'm going to say, year and a half, we face some severe challenges in terms of increasing costs for most of our projects. And most of those projects, or most of the more complicated ones, and we've seen it across the boards, not just streets, but we've had an expansion of the water plant planned, and the cost of that has nearly doubled from our original estimates. So, currently we're working on a project that's tied to the Resilient St. Verrain project. That project is Boston Avenue Bridge. That project came in at a little over $12 million, and we have about $8 million in the budget right now. So we're looking to, how are we going to fund that? We've got some priorities that are already been approved by council that we're looking at. Railroad quiet zones is an example. That was approved by council several years ago and given us the direction to move forward. That is one of the leveraged funding projects wherein we got basically almost 50% of the then budget in a grant from FRA. So we got $4 million for an $8 million project. That's now looking more along the lines of a $10 million project. So what we're looking at in terms of some of our budgeting is some of these projects will stretch out longer. Quiet zones was one that was broken into components, and we were able to spread it out over several years, in part because a majority of the work is being done by BNSF, the rail line that owns the railroad. And spreading that out, we couldn't do all 17 crossings in one summer, so to speak. We don't have the capacity, nor do they. We just wanted to go through some of these, some of the projects so you understand kind of what the critical nature of some of these. Our TRRP 001, the only real good news I can express to everybody is that we bid out this year's pavement rehab contract, or contracts, which is comprised of basically our asphalt rehab where we repave roads, our concrete rehab, and then we also do a chip seal program which will extend the life of asphalt. All three of those bids came in, contracts, separate bid items came in within budget. That's the only good news I can offer up. Most of our other projects are over. We've got a couple of projects, and as I said, we're looking at these, this is over, when we look at a budget over a 5-year period. An example will be TRP 114, which is the Bowen Left-Hand Creek Bridge. We have 2 bridges in our inventory that are starting to see wear and tear effects long-term, so we're starting to program those in. The TRP 119, which is the 3rd Avenue westbound, we've been looking to get that into the budget to basically rehab the deck. We've done a number of repairs on it, but it is reaching the tail end of its useful life. The fortunate good news is there seems to be within the infrastructure bills some dollars programmed in for bridges. We're waiting for that to be released so we can at least apply for bridge grants. So as we look at these and start programming them in long term, we start looking at the ability to leverage our dollars as well. Some of the other projects, TRP 011, that is our what we call our transportation system management kind of list of projects. So we throw a lot of projects in there. Several of those, that includes some of our smaller scale safety projects. We throw money, that's where we take out for any new traffic signals. We've got 2 projects in there that have leveraged dollars. And it looks like some of the County Line Road portion of that is going to be funded significantly with leveraged dollars, so the city's match are smaller. Going over some of the more critical projects that the city manager's office has indicated we will fund. Kaufman Street busway improvements, which is tied to our First and Main improvements. That one it's at the top of the list. I already indicated railroad quiet zones is at the top of the list. So as we prepare and plan that budget, we're going to be working towards some of those priority projects, making sure we have adequate funding. That's going to push some other things out and list them as that either unfunded or push them out in future years.
Jim, quick question. In regards to the price increases, are you seeing that as a long-term? Is it a short-term thing? Because obviously we're building budgets that sometimes go 3 to 5 years. So is this something that you're going to have to plan for in subsequent budget years?
I'm going to say yes. I don't know that we've got models that go out 5 years for that, but we'll look at the first initial 2 years and hope that prices either flatten out or in some cases will drop. We haven't seen necessarily that in the supply chain kind of issues. We're facing it. We're not the only, Public Works is not the only entity. LPC is seeing it. Cost increases, as well as they're still seeing delays in getting some of their transformers and supplies 2 years out. We're also seeing in some cases some of our development applications are starting to slow down. So the higher interest rates are affecting the ability for developers to get money. So we're seeing a little bit of that. I'm going to say we're looking at it. We'll look at it. We budget every year. We do our budget process every year. We'll adjust accordingly in 2024 when we budget for 2025. I'm going to assume at least 2 years of this is what I would say based on my experience with this type of market change.
Go ahead.
Material?
That's a really great question. We're seeing it in materials, certainly, scarcity of materials. We're also seeing it in labor costs, at least particularly on the Front Range. What I always say is you drive up and down the Front Range, you'll see development everywhere. So labor is a challenge. Getting some of our consultants to provide or hit our goals for providing 60, 90, 100% plans seem to get stretched out. They're extremely busy. So labor has been a challenge. It's been reflected across the board on anywhere in the city. We have trouble filling positions, particularly at the mid-management and higher levels. We can fill engineering positions for kids coming out of college or 2 or 3 years experience, but mid-level and up is very difficult. And we're seeing that in the labor trades as well. And that's part of the challenge is that when we bid out a project, consultant or contractors just really aren't hungry that they're going to try to lower their prices to get a project. They've got lots of work everywhere along the Front Range. So just touching real quick on the last topic, the safety capacity and alternative modes project. Some of these projects, as we go, we'll see their budgets reduced, some dollars shift around. Some projects we're trying to fund. We've got, other than the street fund, we do have some money coming in on some of our trail projects from other areas. Example would be the Spring Gulch number 2 project that really actually isn't listed here because it's already in the existing budget and we're working to get that trail completed. Dollars from that are coming in not just from streets, but also from other areas of, we've got some park dollars because it isn't running through open space as well. So we look to leverage our dollars, not just with outside money, but within interior as well. There's also some of the Hover Street improvements, maybe the Nelson Road And Hover Street intersections, we're looking to fund with the Transportation Community Investment Fee Fund, which is used for capacity. That is the money that developers put into a fund that goes to capacities or capacity improvements. So where we have those, we're looking to use those dollars on some of these projects. So we will see some of them funded, but it's going to be a very tight budget year. So.
So with that, we just wanted to, oh, go ahead.
So Jim, especially in the context that Vision Zero is going to happen, I trust council will pass the resolution, and then we'll work on an action plan. And a lot of Vision Zero is about, narrowing lanes, and these projects, there's quite a few. At least when I read the descriptions, there's a lot of, add another lane. Even the Nelson one I read, add a lane or add a width for a bike lane. But then under Vision Zero, I'm looking at speed control separation, a cyclist on a 35-mile-an-hour road that probably traditionally goes 40. I don't want them to get hit. So I'm just wondering, can we also maybe get rid of some of these projects? At least lessen them to a degree, especially like the Hover widening, Nelson widening. I know that doesn't involve the intersection, but at least maybe we could think of alternative ways and extremely focus on our multimodal plan to really get people on a different path than a 2-ton car that can hit people.
So what I'll note is, while we do a lot of talking about Vision Zero, okay, so Vision Zero is we're not going to accomplish that in a year or 2 years. We're going to put a goal in of several years out. So we need to take a long-term approach, long-term thinking. And currently within I think the existing budget, we're going to see about $60 to $80 million of unfunded projects. Some of these projects will slide into that and may never resurface again. So as part of looking at Vision Zero, as Phil takes on a transportation, what do we call it, mobility plan, those are items we'll be looking at a lot harder. I know that council has made indications of pushing more multimodal thought processes. So I think there's I guess the best I could come up with, maybe an answer of some of these projects dropping off. We would see that. And what I would also want to just remind everybody, these are the capital projects we look at. A lot of most of what you're going to see with Vision Zero, of at least the planning components, are going to come out of the operating budget. And that is a separate budget, separate kind of, to a certain degree, budget process where we look at. That's where we maintain our signals. Some of our smaller scale safety projects are funded out of there. Our concrete rehab, where we would do small scale safety improvements of like curb extensions, comes out of our some of that operating dollars. So I would say, this is the first time I think we've brought TAB in early on in the budget process. So I think those are the discussions we can have as we move through the process.
Okay. Yeah, well, I just remember the Vision Zero study session of city manager saying, immediately we need to start looking at projects and maybe where we plan on widening roads, maybe we need to narrow the roads. And then I advocate is thinking about other modes of travel, including maybe like for Hover, for the future BRT. I'm like, well, why not a protected bus lane to fully separate and speed up alternative modes of travel? So, yeah.
Thanks for your comments. The reason for this to be on your agenda tonight is really for any more discussion. So if we would just open it up. If these projects look like, if they look acceptable, these are the projects that we're putting into the budget, but we'd like to hear some conversation about it. And I think the Vision Zero piece is exactly what we were looking for, as far as how do we, because really what's going to happen, and I was going to mention this at the end, is we're going to have this transportation mobility plan and Vision Zero going parallel tracks. and they're going to feather into each other at the end of each. So those will have to come together and be part of the solution for all the things that you were talking about, Board Member Wickland. So those are the kind of things we're looking for. Is this the idea about widening roads? I think City Council's heard a lot about those discussions and where we are with, if you look at certain projects that have been done recently, like 9th Avenue west of Main Street, well, west of Kaufman, that's where we had an operational project that went back in and restriped that differently and provided a buffered bike lane where there was none before and a center turn lane where there was none before. So safety for all modes is really our key here, and then maintaining the existing system so that we don't fall into disrepair and have a very expensive project in the midterm future. You'll see the same kind of project on Mountain View. We did that as well. Parking was removed in some instances, on-street parking, much to the chagrin of some of the neighbors, but I think now there's an understanding that that's a safer condition overall. So again, safety, taking care of the road, and then safety for all modes as well. So there's some other things we'd like to talk to you about as far as getting people out of their vehicles in the long run. That's a future discussion item we'll probably have as we get further into the year. As far as what I'm excited about is micro transit. So we're going to see how we do as far as going for some federal dollars there, and we should be able to let you know more about that in about 2 months. So those are the things that we're working on, but going over these projects would be, we just want to make sure there's either kind of head nodding or are we missing something here, just to get your general sense of kind of where are we on the right track.
As a follow-up to Board Member Wickland's comments, Phil, I know you and Jim have been through a lot of these budget cycles and planning cycles. My question is, how long does it take for a concept like Vision Zero or microtransit to go from an idea to actually showing up as projects on a list like the one we're looking at tonight? Are we talking, would you say 3 years, 4 years?
I think the answer is it depends. Typically when it's a capital project, if it's a smaller capital project, it's more of a 3-year time frame. But most of the things that I'm working with in a more of a long-term transportation planning role is the bigger projects, and those are at least 5 years in discussion, and usually more. So, but 5 years is kind of that a threshold. With microtransit, that's an idea about getting money, most likely grant dollars to help us start that program up, a startup, and then working with RTD in partnership. So there's a lot of different folks to work with on that. That's a public-private partnership model. So there's a lot of folks to work with in that, but it can go fairly fast if everybody can kind of come on board. But it really requires chasing the money. That's going to take, I mean, I've been doing this for about 1.5 years now. So that's where we are, and we're hoping to have more news, like I said, by the end of this spring, probably more like early summer. So that'll tell us if we have money. If we don't, it's kind of where do we go to the next pot of money to chase. So yeah, it depends. Sorry.
Just real quick, excuse me. In regards to the projects that we have on the list here, I get it's a balancing act. We have to take care of some things on an immediate level. And so Vision Zero, from what I understand, is almost philosophical, or it's an umbrella with which we would operate in terms of design principles for the things that we're doing going forward. So with that being said, and kind of tie in with what I was going to say council member, but board member McInerney, good look on you, right? Was going to say is, you know, with that idea of Vision Zero being a design principle, do you suspect that residents are going to see a change to some of this? Because we've already had some comments tonight about it in support of Vision Zero. And I'd like to know that we're really progressing to there, that folks are going to see that. So that was long-winded, but.
Well, I don't want to categorize Vision Zero as a design kind of solution through design, so to speak. Vision Zero is one component of it. It is also one of the other components is a rather I want to say detailed, involved, rather large public engagement process where you bring the stakeholders together as part of not just the you start with the creation of the action plan that brings those stakeholders together, okay, to create the action plan. And then once the plan is basically created and then implemented, you begin to implement it, then you still have that engagement across the boards. And there's a number of other things in regards to equity, in regards to kind of some of the options you can do in regards to speed limits. And but infrastructure improvements are only one small part of it. You know, part of from the city's perspective, you know, getting to a 0 deaths is going to be very challenging. Okay. We will probably have better success in limiting or reducing some of the more, not fatal crashes, but the higher injury crashes. The challenge in regards to 0 deaths is that most of those deaths happen on the arterial roads with higher speeds. So that's something we'll have to see. And there's not some of those areas, some of the fatalities we had are on state roadways out of our control. So it'll be a challenge, but I think those are things that's part of what we have to bring everybody together to discuss as part of the action plan as we start crafting that over the next year.
And as we spoke with the council at the retreat on Saturday, we should aspire to 0 deaths on our roadways, whether they're state or local or whatever, but that's our aspirational goal, is to meet that zero death. So we don't want to say we're trying to, get to a number. The number is 0 because every one of those is a person. So that's the kind of goals of Vision Zero.
Well, I totally understand that because Vision Zero, started in Sweden, and they're still working on it 30 years later. It just took us 30 years to get it over here. But I would disagree that because, to quote, unfortunately I don't have his name, a Boston professor, but just the 5 principles of Vision Zero: speed control, separation, functional harmony, so meaning roads should avoid multiple functions, predictability, simplicity, forgivingness, restrictiveness, so when you make a mistake, it's not deadly. State awareness. So I would argue that it's very much a design issue, not just enforcement and educating the public. It's all that as well, but then it's also how we build things and maybe how we perfect our road diets to achieve separation for all users, but then also to maybe slow speeds and get drivers to pay attention. So just
Well, we appreciate your comments and thank you very much. We'll take those into consideration as we move forward in this next budget cycle. So I appreciate your time on that. The last thing we have, if that's all for this budget item, is more of a work plan, and that you can invite all the public as well to kind of go around the table in the back. We're going to unroll this roll plot. Oh, go ahead.
just a follow-up on the Kaufman Street. So that will be fully funded, is what I heard.
That has been our direction,
Okay.
That we anticipate funding that project.
Okay.
So we are looking, currently we are at 90% plans, I believe. We're working through some property acquisition, some easements. It is, because it is a project leveraged with federal funding, we have to go through the federal process, so it takes a little longer to procure the easements through the federal process. So we've put that in the schedule, anticipating that we will be going out to bid November, December of this year, awarding in January of next year, and then getting started in March, April, the spring. Currently, we are getting ready for that. There is currently a water line project that we are wrapping up that will get the water line out of the way of any of the other improvements. So that project is actually beginning. So you will see construction activity on Kaufman this summer. But Kaufman is one of the projects that we have indicated will be funded, and we are looking currently, as we go into the next budget cycle, of providing a pretty hefty contingency within the budget, anticipating if costs continue to go up, we will have it covered. We won't have to be kind of doing an exercise of trying to find dollars in the budget. So we're looking at like a 20% increase in, as well as other contingencies. So we will be looking at that, we anticipating increases as we budget for next year.
Okay. And then I guess this might be for Phil, is, you know, this is more like looking at the future, you know, let's dream about the future. And after Kaufman, because it will be, you know, our first priority bus lanes, protected cycleway, but also people have to get there to use those facilities. So what's the dream to connect it in the future?
Great question, and a lot of dreaming going on.
Oh yeah. Yes.
So the goal is to get people to this station. Microtransit's one part of that goal. It's basically a vision of 5 smaller vans that would just kind of trek around town. The goal of that program of microtransit is stated as less than a 15-minute wait after you make a call, or whether you're calling, whether you're using your phone, however you're doing it. We're trying to bring a lot of equity into this, so it's not, you don't need to necessarily, I mean, it's going to be a multi-language phone call that you can, I mean, you'll have a translator on the other end that can speak a variety of languages. So we're trying to make it so it's all inclusive and make sure that it's very equitable. Anybody can use it, call in. Within 15 minutes, you'll have a place to catch the ride. It may not be in front of your house like an Uber or Lyft, but it may be 2 blocks away, 1 or 2 blocks away. So you'll meet up with maybe 1 or 2 other people who would also share that ride with you. So like a bus still. And so within 15 minutes, you would catch the shuttle, and 15 minutes you would be at your destination. So a less than 30-minute trip total for anybody in the city using that system. So that's the vision. We'll see, you know, that's the scope we'll put out there for folks as we bid out this project, just like we bid out a construction project. The other piece is we're working with folks in the whole Northwest region. That includes, that's the Northwest Denver area region. We're working on it and expanding the B-cycle, electric bicycle, B-cycle, bike share system in Boulder to be countywide, and maybe even into parts of Westminster and Broomfield County, or Westminster's in Adams County, Broomfield and Broomfield County. So we're trying to incorporate and expand that system so that we could have electric bikes that would help make those connections as well. And then we'll have the RTD bus system still on top of that. We're thinking micromobility may be able to offset a lot of that. So bring RTD in as a partner to help fund the micromobility model. So again, a lot of dreams going on, but this is all hubbed at First and Main. And the other piece of it is to start talking about Kaufman Street being this bus corridor. And you've heard from somebody who lives along that corridor, but also has the other portion of that corridor is on Main Street. So we're looking and working with the LDDA, the Longmont Downtown Development Authority, to figure out what to do with Main Street next. And there was a lot of excitement. You know, unfortunately, it was driven by COVID, but there was a lot of excitement when we narrowed that down to 1 lane in each direction. So there's a thought of how do you make that more of a permanent slowing traffic and changing the lanes into, you know, bicycle facilities, or do you expand the sidewalk? Some would argue that there's enough sidewalk on Main Street right now to handle the pedestrian load. But I think if you go out there on any given evening, especially as we're getting the longer hours, and if you go out there on a weekend, you'll see a lot of pedestrian traffic using Main Street. As uncomfortable as it is, I think people are drawn to that area, and it's just the center of Longmont. So all these things play into each other. We'll still be driving. We're not trying to get people to abandon their cars necessarily, but if we can offer that, that goes into some of the affordable housing and attainable housing aspects. That takes a large cost load off of people trying to afford housing in Longmont. So it all plays into each other and it's all working together. So I'm getting on my soapbox now, so I'll leave that and let you speak.
Just one follow-up, Phil, is, so then also what about like local cyclists getting to the facility instead of using a B-cycle? And then just to tie in another question is, maintenance, because I remember one of the bike issues committee, like when there was the Pike Road, bollards placed in as an experiment, one of the big complaints was, rock and gravel couldn't be swept. So are we planning to expand our maintenance equipment to even take care of these facilities?
A great question. What we're doing is we're working with our maintenance group as we bring these projects forward and making sure they're fully involved in the project so that they understand what we're looking to construct and we're meeting their needs for what kind of equipment they have or what kind of equipment they can get to make it work better than what we did on Pike Road, which was to quickly install some bollards as a test. And we quickly learned from our maintenance crews that it was too narrow and it didn't work. We're really trying to squeeze something into that, shoehorn it in that wasn't meant to be shoehorned in that way with the existing travel lanes. And the other part of your question was how to get there on a bicycle if you're not e-bicycle.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking of like the future of, this is our first protected bike lane. Hopefully it's not our last. So,
Right,
and start planning for the next one.
And that'll connect directly to the St. Vrain Greenway
Okay.
on the south. So it'll have a direct connection. It'll actually be a great connection from St. Vrain Greenway north into downtown on Kaufman Street for bicycles and walkers and people using other wheeled devices. So it should be very multimodal. And as you get into the station area at First and Main, First and Kaufman, between Boston and First there, the idea is that that's got some parking involved with it. It's going to have bicycle parking, bicycle lockers. So you should have a secured place to park your vehicle and your vehicle, your bicycle vehicle and your automobile. So, and then there'll be obviously lots of loading and unloading opportunities there too. So for kiss and ride opportunities, carpooling opportunities, those kind of things, that'll be accommodated as well. So we're really trying to connect it, and it will be dynamic in that it can grow. And if it's not done right on opening day, we can adapt to other conditions and other transportation modes we don't even understand right now. So.
Thank you.
I guess before we do the session in the back, do we want to make a change, and Stacy, you can correct me, to let the rest of the public make comments and then move to that? Or should we wait till we've gone through that and then have public make comments? I mean, Phil, what are you thinking, how long it's going to take for us to do the session up there?
20 minutes, 30 minutes,
Okay. Well, I just
and then
figured.
we'll reconvene,
What's that now?
and then reconvene after that.
Yeah. Yeah, I just didn't know we had more public show up, so.
It's up to you if you'd like to just invite anybody who hasn't spoken and who might not want to be part of the Third Avenue work study here that may want to just let them speak and then be able to leave if they'd like.
Yeah.
And they're certainly welcome if you allow it to be part of that work study in the back.
Yeah, that's
work
fine.
Session.
So if anybody in the public would like to come up and speak, we would open up the days for you if you don't want to be part of the Third Street budget conversation. If not, you can stick around. Okay, no, that's fine. We'll go ahead and do the Third Street budget conversation.
So
I'm sorry, do we have a taker? Yeah? Maybe. Yeah.
Do I have to do it? Okay.
Hi, my name is Martha Goebel. I am from Gay Street, the 700 block of Gay. And we were just, a couple of us came today to just learn a little bit more about what the traffic mitigation and speed mitigation would be happening for the Gay Street Longs Peak area. There's been many accidents at that intersection. It's just a two-way. People kind of use Gay Street as a thoroughfare because it does go from 66 down to Price. And I just, sorry, I haven't done public speaking much. But we just wanted to know, I know that there's been some plans. I know one of our neighbors has been speaking with Phil, I believe Haley Tripfire, about some of the, we have emails, about what was going to be going on with Gay Street and what the plans were for Gay Street and Longs Peak area. There were a couple different things for slowing down traffic, and I wasn't sure if that was in the budget or if that was in the plans. I think it was a phase one. So they weren't going to do. I'm going to step off and let Ed speak.
I don't know if I'll do any better. I think specifically our concerns were, it seemed like there was going to be a dramatic change to, you know, the infrastructure on our street, getting rid of parking on the east side of the street, which I read was anecdotally, there's not a parking problem on Gay Street. Well, if you've ever been near our street on any day that there's anything going on at the park, or God forbid there's a parade, it's mayhem. I mean, it feels unsafe, and people still block my driveway. They not encroach on it, but block the driveway. I know that's probably what 5-10 times a year, but if you live there, it's not to be completely, discounted. It feels kind of crazy on those days. I was also curious because we were, 19-foot. We were looking at some of the plans, and I'm like, how much of my front yard is going towards this plan? So that was just something I, wanted to check in on and see if there was any discussion of that tonight. But that, no, please be aware that we and our neighbors are very interested and very aware and will be paying attention and hopefully, be able to be a sounding board for the people that live there, Thank you for your time.
Thank you for that. Anyone else? If not, we can go, I think, to the back and do the, yes, Jim?
So, one of the previous tab meetings, we were asked to bring back and provide you information on Third Avenue. So, that is our intention tonight. This is kind of a precursor to a public meeting that we will be held kind of on April 6th. So to move things along, we'll accept questions, comments from the board, but there will be an opportunity for the general public to offer up those comments at the April 6th meeting. And those invites should be going out by the end of this week. We are finalizing the list and the letter as we kind of in the next coming days, so we will get those mailed out. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I don't want to get into a lot of conversation with the public where we're going to unveil this again. This is a plan that is in its final stages, so there are a couple opportunities to tweak a few things. But generally, this is a kind of the low-cost measure we can do. One of the things you will not see on this plan is any bike lanes. To install bike lanes would require whole-scale removal of parking in a number of areas and widening of the road. And that was never our intention. I will, be happy to show you kind of the graphic we have. This will be a very similar graphic to what we're going to show on April 6th as well. This is a second of a series of public meetings where we heard a number of issues with the public that asked us for a number of things. And that's really kind of our intention, is to get back back to the unveil kind of where we're taking the corridor to show how we can control kind of that speed. It is for the most corridor 25 miles per hour. So we're going to be doing a number of kind of non-invasive improvements, some traffic control with stop signs, crossing markings, some more flashing radars. That is really what we're going to be showing here. Narrowing lanes down to 9.5 to 10-foot lanes to kind of help to slow traffic down. So that's what we'll show you.
Phil, I'm sorry, I just wanted to ask on the Gay Street, if we could also, I know we talked about near the elementary school with the crosswalks, but also look at some of the comments a little farther south on there. Maybe just a discussion item on Gay Street, next meeting and the meeting after, because it sounds like we might have two things that we at least ought to be aware of.
Right, and just a quick little follow-up on Gay Street, based on the last comment that was just made. A lot of those design pieces, or those really preliminary design, it's not even design, it was just what could happen, what could fit, was part of the Enhanced Multi-Use Corridor Planning, or EMUC planning, that was done a number of years ago. And we've since learned through a lot of trial and error and trying to get this just, done it right and within a budget, is we probably aren't going to be able to move curbs as much as a consultant who did that project thought we could move curbs. And we just don't, as you've heard throughout this discussion, the resources are not there to do those kind of larger elemental changes that we just don't have the resources to do that. So we've been trying to work within the curb line. So people who are concerned about a plan that they saw called Enhanced Multi-Use Corridor Planning, and they saw their street widened, and they saw portions of their tree lawn taken away, that's not going to happen with what we've got going as far as any kind of budget we have right now. And the other piece of it is we're going to take the EMUC plan, and it's going to get absorbed into the transportation mobility plan that we've got planned for later this year. So we will incorporate that into the TMP, and we will make those modifications based on what we've heard from the public. And this isn't the first time we've heard these concerns. So we appreciate that the people are coming out and talking about these things, because it's giving us a clear direction forward. Thank you. And I was going to say too, for this Third Avenue piece, I'm concerned because Longmont Public Media is in the house, and they'd probably like to be able to see what's going on. So I'm going to bring the mic with us so they can hear us, and it would be great if we could, I'm not sure which, maybe this front table here would be the best place, and if we can kind of maybe go behind and let LPM see what we're doing, so we can keep this as a public meeting that's actually useful for people as they rewatch it. So.
No, that sounds appropriate, yeah.
Oh, okay, so we're gonna have to do some table extension maybe, but I'm trying to figure out where else we could do this. But maybe it's worth a short recess as we move tables into position.
Okay, we'll take a short recess to get some tables in position.
Great. Okay. I'm hoping this works. Great. So we are going to have to do this in the back of the room. We apologize to people watching later on for this discussion, but we are going to try to get all the verbal pieces of this we can.
April 6th meeting.
April 6th meeting. Okay. Well, we thought this was going to be more interactive. And so kind of see what's going on. Yeah, so what we've done is we've unrolled the plot. We wanted to do this, we'll do that on PowerPoint on April 6th, so you'll get another view of this. This isn't the last time you'll see this. We'll take it through the entire process as well. So I'm going to let Jim kind of walk through the plan here and give him the mic.
Goody. I get to talk here. All right. Guess, is this thing on? I guess I got to really talk close. All right. To my left, your right, looking at this, Main Street is on this side. So we're looking and going to start talking about the improvements moving from east to west. We are, this is one of the final drafts. We are still looking at some minor lane adjustments in and around 3rd Avenue and Kaufman. It is a signalized intersection in conjunction with the Kaufman widening project. We're looking at a lane adjustment there. As we start to move towards Pratt, we are looking at adjustments to the narrowing up the crosswalks, providing basically a crosswalk markings. We're necking down the roadway. Thank you, Phil. We're providing a safe haven. There's going to be, what gets lost in here is there is a curb extension on the south side. We'll provide, but then we're going to be putting in our normal crosswalks and crosswalk signage on both sides of Pratt Street. One of the analysis we did over the last year was doing some counts and measuring of pedestrians, and we found that pedestrians were using both sides of the roadway for crossing, not just pushing to one side. So we felt that we needed to continue that. So providing those ability to cross, but narrowing up the exposed area where a pedestrian would be crossing on the roadway. Providing some markings on the road to indicate that there is a crosswalk there, as well as the crosswalk markings. Continuing to go towards the west, we are proposing some additional striping improvements, cleaning up the striping at Gay Street. That is already, I believe, a 4-way stop, but we'll be enhancing those crossings and putting in new reflective stop signs. We are working on Bowen Street. We are also looking at providing additional cleaning up the crossings, cleaning up the signs, providing some yield signs to pedestrians, as well as additional warning signs, noting that there is a crosswalk there, so that they should be yielding to pedestrians as they are in the crosswalk. Hawk signal. Hawk signals are usually what we see for pedestrian movements at mid-block crossings, as well as the RRFBs. We were looking at those on several of the intersections, RRFBs, but found.
Please make sure your questions are on the mic so I can hear them.
Was there any accounting for, I call it Hawkeye, sorry, Hawk signals? I know that those are normally mid-block accommodations, but I know with 3rd Street and kind of the nature of it, if that would have made sense.
And we did look at RRFBs at several intersections, but we didn't look at any Hawk signals. We're not seeing that those would be the best use to provide some of the crossings. So moving a little further up, we are putting in some of our flashing or our radar speed limit signs. We are also, some of the new signs we are buying will be data collection systems. So we will be able to identify both the number of cars, counts of cars, as well as get data on speeds of cars throughout here. We recently, in conjunction with public safety, bought them several of those signs that are actually portable signs where they can strap them to a pole. We're going to actually install permanent signs here so we have those at this location. Then moving on, oh wait, I'm sorry.
Jim, quick question. I guess this one works too. On the excuse me, on the signs that show the speed limit, because I know Mountain View has them, a couple other streets. Have there been any data collected after the fact that shows whether you're getting more compliance with speeds? Because I know that's very difficult to kind of gauge based on those are really just signs that are showing speed. They're not really doing anything for compliance.
So as we kind of move forward in the future, that's kind of what our intention is as we install some of these facilities is the ability with some of those temporary signs, the flashing ones, to build a database of what's the problem. And that's one of the components of Vision Zero is data collection across kind of the city that starts to identify where some of the problems are. That's one of the reasons public safety wanted some of these signs. They want to start identifying where people are speeding, that they can put, their forces to best use. So, we're looking at this later this year to pick up a few more outside of this project. And I'd have to get back to you, and I'll finalize this prior to the next meeting, but I believe we were going to put Bowen as stop control entirely. So my graphic is wrong. So I do apologize for that. But I'll have that information for the April 6th meeting, verify that. But there was an intersection in there where we were providing stop control. It did warrant the four-way stop. So moving up, we are coming up to Sherman Street. We are looking at curb extensions and a three-way stop for the northern leg. We have traffic counts or pedestrian counts of a lot of movement there, so we want to provide that protective crossing. It's also an intersection at the bend of the road. Has caused a lot of problems with sight distance, so we were looking to provide a three-way stop. And then we were also, from our public meeting there and some of our analysis, there's an access issue for cars coming southbound on Francis to access the corridor. That missed the graphic, and this is the right one. So this is the blow up. The difference with this is we are undertaking a drainage project through here that's going to be coming hopefully shortly. And there's a lot of utilities in this corridor, so that design is dragging a little bit. We originally intended to put curb extensions. These will not occur here simply because of the drainage issues and getting the water to drain. But that drainage project will come up here and then go down the alley to an existing pipe and tie into an existing pipe just off the alley. And that project has to occur before these start coming to fruition for us to start doing the concrete work, which is the first thing we'll do as part of the project. Continuing on, we are going to be putting in making use of these existing curb extensions here, putting in a crosswalk at Vivian. There will also be additional signage on that, both preliminary signs coming at the approach as well as signs at the intersection, and then following up with flashing speed signs again between the two Vivians. As we move down to Sunset, we will be restriping the area. The alignment based on when we came and paved last year, put in bike lanes to the west, that kind of caused some issues. So we're going to realign some of the striping, re-enhance the crosswalks, as well as all the stop signs. This intersection is rather challenging. It's one of for a four-way stop that gets a medium amount of traffic. It's one of our highest crash intersections, so we want to realign this with some striping and then some tick marks across the intersection so it lines up. And again, we are, as part of this striping, we are going to provide not just a double yellow down the middle, but also we're going to kind of note the parking on either side with a solid white line and provide as much parking as we can. Once we kind of establish the plan or the construction is done, we will basically be going out and re-looking at the parking areas, revising site distance, checking site distance, and making sure it's in compliance with our criteria, anticipating that we are looking to maximize some of the parking along the corridor. That is our goal, one of our goals, as well as maintaining the traffic through here and slowing those cars down. And then providing, on Sherman, on Vivian, on Judson, access onto the corridor. So that's really what we're going to sum this all up. April 6th, I'll be doing this again, and hopefully I'll be better at it. So does any of the board have any questions or?
Where does the demand for parking come from on this corridor?
Well, this corridor is actually really challenging. So you've got kind of a change in use. Excuse me. You've got a commercial kind of entity. You've got some businesses down here. You've got a church. We see parking intermixed through here. The parking changes. Some is on the north side in some areas, some is on the south side. As we move kind of towards into the residential area, we see a lot of use on the south side. Actually, no, we don't allow parking on the north side. So we see it through here. We have seen it intermittently a little bit through here. There is the West Side Tavern. So this gets some use. One of the challenges I think that started the project is when we took a look on the site distance on Sherman and Francis, we used the most strictest standards because of the amount of traffic we saw and the speeds and the sight lines to promote the sight lines. I think part of this project will get us back to our normal standard and not because we can, it'll be a little bit safer to provide it back to the normal standard, not use the most stricted standards. So, and then, kind of on the parking, on the west side, most of the homes there on Johnson, they're alley loaded and there's adequate parking on the roads. We don't see as much here on the kind of west of Francis, I want to say. You see it a little bit, but if you drive it, we don't see it significantly. But the parking is intermixed throughout the area of where it's needed or where it's wanted.
I guess I have one question and a comment. These bump outs, are we trying to focus them on every intersection, or is there a reason not here, or is it just not visually there?
We were looking at the intersection of Pratt. If you drive it today, it is very wide, particularly on the east side. So we were looking at having to desperately do something there. It is a long way for somebody to walk. Most of the other areas, it is more reasonable, and part of the challenge with curb extensions is how do you drain the road? So we looked at some of those areas and felt it with some signage, and in this case at Bowen's going to be stop control. It wasn't necessarily needed.
Then I think one comment coming from a cyclist, I'm okay with no bikes on 3rd. I think I think Spruce or going north on 6th or 4th is better option for safety.
So one of the things Phil and I have had conversations about, it's nothing official, is that, you look at 4th Avenue, and it is a really kind of a strange corridor. It's got bike lanes on it, but in the area of the park, it's got huge travel lanes as well. So those are areas as we kind of morph into what we're going to be doing on Main Street, what we're doing on Kaufman, how do we get bikes there? We've had discussions about, hey, do we want to do one-way streets on those east-west streets and then make, one side of the road a two-way bike lane? Okay, one of the challenges with I know you love that separated bike lane. Okay, separated from the road, put a
I know it
median in.
costs a lot.
Well, but one of the challenges is that in certain areas, you have a lot of residential driveways in some areas. And providing access for those driveways, that's one of our challenges.
There are no crosswalks. There's a massive park there, and there are no crosswalks into it, so that's part of what I'm sure you're still working on with the school. The principal will be interested to know.
Jim, when we met a few months back regarding Central, this you added you added a crosswalk here, 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 and you painted this one, repainted this one, because currently, as this map sits, when it was shot, this was the only crosswalk bordering the entire school. This was the only crosswalk. So there is one here now. There is one here now. And after Tony passed, there is now one here. When you and I spoke, you also had stated that the stop signs currently are beyond the crosswalk. And there was talk about taking those stop signs and putting them pre-crosswalk, so it makes sense. I had brought up to you that this park is a beautiful park, but it is an attractive nuisance, if you will, because, and I don't mean that in the wrong way, I mean it because the kids use the park after school and they run across the street, but there's nothing there. There's no crosswalk. There's nothing there. Now there is one here that you've added, but it's a draw that these kids run to here. And then we live right here. We have a great view of everything that goes on in this school. After school, the kids use the playground until it's dark. And, as you know, it's a commuter school. There is no busing to Central at all. So everybody that comes to the school, they're biking, skateboarding, skiing, their parents are taking them, but they're also running on their own. So my main concern is the school and due to it being elementary especially.
Yeah, and I thank you for that. For that, there were a number of items I think we had talked about and we're looking at addressing. I think we wanted to extend this the school zone, I think, up to the point, and our operations team, flashing light. We were going to push it to this pole. Our signal team was supposed to have that accomplished. That is something I'd have to check up on. I think we were going to relocate the end school zone here down to match with the flasher. Okay. All right.
One flasher here and you have one flasher here.
Yeah, and that's got to move. That was what we agreed to. We'll make sure that happens. I drove it, I think last week. I don't think this. We wanted to have this rehabbed. I don't think. Did it get rehabbed? Because it didn't look like it when I drove it. The weather hits it. So, and I believe that's. These we put in with paint. I thought that was thermo. That should last longer. So, but we'll have it. That'll be something. In the crosswalks in the area, we'll have them touched up this summer before school.
The other question was, when you have the flashing light, I'm sorry. The flashing light is on this side of the street, and then immediately across the street is the end of school zone.
Right, and we would move both. We would, if we would move the sign, actually, if it's depending on where that end of school zone is, we'd have to look at it. That was for the flasher down here, but we would probably move it back up we would shift around. We'll take a look at it.
Okay. It's,
get it
when I had
addressed.
brought it up to you, it was before school started, and now I think we're going to be through another school year. And it's almost like, I know when I had met with you both and I said, it's not a matter of when, or
Right.
if it's going to happen, it's a matter of when it's going to
So-
happen, an accident, and it certainly did happen 2 weeks later.
So one of the things I will hopefully, is positive news. We have a new traffic engineer. That position sat when we had spoken. That position hadn't been filled yet. He's a younger engineer. He's got a lot of different ideas regarding multimodal versus some of our traditional. In the past, we've had a kind of the goal of traffic engineers is to move traffic, and traffic meaning cars. I think there's a change of kind of philosophy both in the traffic unit as well as our city council in regards to making things safe. So we hear you. We're working on it. We will, you and I had met out there. We'd committed to a few things. We'll make sure they get done.
I have a question. Is this on? Okay. I have a question. My children both went to Central Elementary. They are both high school and 21. But why has Bross never had a school crossing? Because the preschool and kindergarten, the preschool comes out of the east side of the school. And, as you were speaking, I don't know your name, but as you were speaking, the children and the families do go across and access and use Thompson Park immediately after school. And the school also uses Thompson Park a lot during their school day. Why has Bross never been part of a school zone flashing light or just in general? Is it because gay is? Or there's no rhyme or reason or signage really stating that there is a school and there are young children in that area?
And I did very good question, but I don't have an answer for you. That's lost to history as to why the previous, unless Phil has an answer, I'm not sure. But if we, one of the things we look at when we measure an intersection is we look at what's the existing traffic, foot traffic, pedestrian traffic. If there's a need, and we see that the school, we have. Should be meeting with the school, mostly, kind of starting this time of year to start talking about some of the improvements. If there's a need for it, we can certainly look at it and install something. But part of that has to be a partnership with the school district. And I don't know that I just don't know the history of it.
I'm going to try to channel some of the older engineers who used to work before you did. One of the reasons that I've always heard, and this is coming from a planner, not an engineer, but one of the reasons that we would always hear is that Gay Street is a collector street. And typically collectors are 30-mile-per-hour streets. And any kind of local street like Bross, so this is a collector, 3rd Avenue is a collector, Gay Street's a collector. Both of them originally had speed limits set at 30. And now the idea of a school zone was to slow people down more than 10 miles per hour. So you put them on the collectors to slow people down from 30 to 20. But if you had a local street, the default speed limit on all local streets, you'll see it as you come into town, is 25. So the idea was don't invest in flashers that slow people down 5 miles per hour. Invest in the ones that slow people down 10 or more miles per hour. So that's was the logic used back then, but we've since changed it all around town. So you'll see other 25-mile-per-hour streets that have flashers, but it was a slow change, but it was one that has been coming. So that's all I know.
That's very helpful to understand how, to answer your question. And the other thing that we've noticed is the principal said that this is the new handicap entrance to the school, and there's absolutely no protection or loading zone at that point. I'm sure they'll want to speak to you about that.
I got to tell you, it'd be nice if they had told us before they installed the handicap ramp. We would have worked with them, and so we'll reach out to them. We'll have a chat.
Any other questions for Jim?
been a lot of accidents. I've lived there 30 years. There's been, I'd say if you average it out, one accident a month. And I don't know what's the ranking of that intersection as far as severity in town. Seems like it should be pretty high.
So off the top of my head, I don't know. We did just publish our crash study for up through 2021, from 2016 to 2021. I think we do it in every year in a 5-year cycle. I'd have to look at that data and see what it is. But certainly, you know, we list intersections based on speed limit, and then we have the ranking based on an index of accidents. So that is available. I'd have to see if the current one has been posted to the website, but that is public information that's available. So let me give you a card. You can email me. I can send you that appropriate data.
If it's higher in severity, you actually got to do something about trying to resolve it or something like
That's what we usually see is as we see those higher intersections, whether it's signalized or non-signalized, those are ones that go to the top of the list for what we look for safety improvements.
Okay. Yeah, I've had at least 5 cars land in my yard over the years after accidents. The last one was fleeing the scene after he ran the stop sign and took a shortcut through my yard and almost hit me in my driveway. But it's kind of getting tired of the cars landing in my yard. One hit my house too. So.
Backyard taking care of 5 children who were in a car accident, you know, from that intersection.
So this is of the list of unsignalized average daily traffic, 3,000 to about 12,000 vehicles a day. Gay and Long's Peak is number 11 on the list. So it is on the list of intersections that when we start looking at how we're going to address them, that is one that we would start looking at. You know, as we move, 3rd and Gay is one we.
Mr. Engstadt? Mr. Engstadt,
Thank you.
if I could please, for those that have spoken and asked questions that have not signed in, if you could please do so, I can add your name to the minutes.
And since we're talking about the school and pie in the sky ideas, because I know there was a like concrete brick on Alpine for a little bit, way north of 21st, and then now it turned into speed bumps. But was there BB's, like, in terms of my international experience, a lot of schools have, you know, textured brick ways to actually slow down cars. So meaning this, you know, that I know that's, you know, you're talking about a lot of money.
No.
Yeah, but yeah, but you know, we already got off topic. So, but just, you know, pie in the sky ideas, and then also, you know, shout out to modern roundabouts as well.
I always appreciate your comments. Thank you.
We are looking at a school and a park here along 3rd. So I'll ask this question. In Longmont, are there any land uses that warrant crosswalks without the need for site-specific study? And as a follow-up, what would it take to put schools and parks into that category?
I'm not sure how to answer that except to say that as you know, certainly land uses are taken into account, but it's more of how much trip generation they create as far as pedestrians and bicycles. And you're talking about 2 places that really do a lot of that trip generation. But we're talking about an older part of town that was developed, you know, 150 plus years ago. So there's a lot of issues going into this. But you know, if this were built today, we would have a lot of those different things taken care of with the construction of those areas today. I don't know, again, how to answer your question in this context, so I apologize. And I will just say one more thing too, because it's a crosswalk isn't marked necessarily, it's still a crosswalk. So you still have to stop for anybody who's trying to cross between, and that's not a good example because I guess you're saying it's now striped. But even if it's not marked, it's still.
Well, this one's not marked, and this is the corridor commuter road.
Right.
This is the 30 mile. The kids are all coded here, not in the front of the school. We live right here. This is not marked, so the kids actually, they won't cross the street right there. And if they get 2 feet onto the street, the cars will not stop.
Yeah, and that's part of we talked about that with Vision Zero. I'm sorry, she just said that the cars will not stop at the unmarked crosswalks, which they're supposed to do by law. But I think that's part of the Vision Zero process that we talked about is the education. And that's something we're going to have to get across to the whole city, and that's going to be tough, right? So go ahead.
To be fair to the drivers, as you've described, this is kind of an accreted situation that started 150 years ago, and the signs that exist don't ever say crosswalk. The signs are not consistent with the modern safety design. They show a picture of, I think, a lady and a child. So, we could make a lot of improvement with a little bit of money.
We appreciate that, and I think that's what Jim's trying to do with the different markings, because you do need to formalize it to bring it out to people. That's part of the education process almost at this point, because people don't know the laws, and so that's something we need to do a better job when we do Vision Zero, is explain that. Are there any other questions? If not, we should probably start to reconvene and finish up the meeting. I don't know how you're.
Well, hopefully we'll
Did
see
you have any
everybody
questions?
April 6th. I think we're at the library, one of the library rooms. So we'll hopefully see you there, and we'll have more staff on hand that will be able to provide or answer to any questions you have. More of a one-on-one kind of dynamic. I think it's going to be, I want to say 5:30 to 7 we'll have a short presentation to start. We're going to update this project as well as some other projects that are in the area we've talked about before, Price Park Tank, Kaufman Street, give you an update on that. And then we'll open it up probably for about an hour of looking at the roll plot and one-on-one discussion.
Is there a way for people to email questions ahead of time so you have an idea of what people are going to be asking so that there's to help steer, or?
Yeah, I believe we are, when you get the letter, there will be directions to, if you have questions ahead of time, you can go through our ServiceWorks website and ask questions, and we'll either answer them then or be prepared to answer them at the meeting.
Could people please sign in if they got to speak at all? That would be wonderful. Thanks for doing that. I think we got everybody. Thank you.
Phil, do we want to reconvene?
Sure, it's up to you.
Yeah, I think so. We did the budget discussion. Are there any other items from staff that we want to discuss tonight?
We have some items at the end for upcoming agendas, but other than that, if you want to take member comments or board member comments and council member comment, I think that's where we are on the agenda.
Okay. We'll start to my right.
No, that was fun. And Jim, thank you for dealing with me and my crazy ideas. But I always like to think big. And I do appreciate the comment that you made about the new engineer and being a bit, thinking outside of the 2-ton box a little bit sometimes. So that's encouraging to hear, especially for future projects. Yeah, that's all my thoughts. Thank you.
Yes, the 2021 crash report presented at the board's December meeting compared Longmont to peer communities based on some incomplete and outdated information. Staff agreed to revise the crash report. What's the status of that revision?
Staff will check up on that and see where we are with all that information. So we'll, unfortunately, one staff member is out today, usually makes it, and she probably could answer that question right here tonight, but we'll get back with you at our April meeting and answer that question for you.
All right, you do recall the issue involved, though.
Yeah, we have the notes, and we won't just have it an update on that. We'll have it done by then. We'll make sure. I mean, it was done last year. We should have had it updated and revised. So if it hasn't gotten done because we've gotten distracted by other things, we'll make sure it gets done. And our report to you in April will say, "Oh yeah, here it is."
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to make sure that, do you all want me to mention during city council meeting tomorrow about the presentation for Third Street? I know you're gonna send out information, but would you like for me to mention that during council comments on tomorrow night?
One of the standard practices we follow is we will be sending out an email invite to city council for that public meeting. That will go out before we do a press release on it.
Okay.
So we've had that covered via communications. So if you'd like to, sure, but we'll have it covered anyway. So council will be advised of it. As we, similar to, you got the email this weekend, earlier on Friday for the mine. When we see press release coming, we send a notice directly to council, so they have that information ahead of the press release.
Yeah, okay. Well, Friday and Saturday were retreat. Nobody looked at their emails.
A little busy.
Little busy. Okay, I just want to make sure because there's always somebody. We need to use all measurements of communication as possible because somebody will say they never knew about it, they didn't see it, they didn't know that it was happening, they didn't know all those things were going on. I do also just want to reiterate to the board about the capital improvement projects. Now that I've learning so much more that just because you put out something and you say this is an estimate cost, you always have to come back because of adjustments or modifications and things like that. And I totally get it and understand. Vision Zero, I'm in support of Vision Zero. I already had the city ordered those light up bracelets, so so I can't speak for all my co-counselors, but I'm totally 100% in support of preventative measurements in order to keep our pedestrians and all of our communities safe as possible. And the number one thing, the key for that preventative is education and community engagement. And so I think for the board is to continuously think about some ways that we can engage our community about this new opportunity for us, for all community members, because we all have to play a part. We can't assume like over there on Bross and Third that there's a school and people have common sense to slow down during the school, that doesn't happen. Common sense is not so common all the time. So we do have to educate people because we do have so many people that are moving in our wonderful city to live here. So it's important. And so if you all as a board can come up with some suggestions and about how we can engage the community and communicate with them in a more effective and efficient way, please, we take all suggestions so that we can start putting that in place, you know, when we adopt that plan. But just know that Councilwoman Yarbrough is on board for Vision Zero. And thank you all for what you do, everything. Yeah, you got your bracelet.
Yeah, you know, the only thing I want to add is I'm really heartened by the fact that we had so many citizens come in today. And that's advocacy right there, that hopefully they're going to go out and talk about things like Vision Zero. And Councilmember Yarborough's words are true, is that community engagement is probably going to get us farthest in terms of the results of Vision Zero than all the changes you can make design-wise to signs and roundabouts, whatever it might be. So I'm heartened by that they showed up today. And maybe from that would be a seed that we would have folks talk about Vision Zero. And I completely agree with you. And I do think we should brainstorm on what are the ways that we can create community engagement around Vision Zero. Because I hate to say it, I think traditionally the Saturday morning coffees and some of the other things, as they're tried and true, but they're tried and true with the same crowd. So how are we going to engage folks that would not normally engage, especially with something that's so critical about mobility, transportation, it's talking about equity. So I guess it's going to be an ongoing project, and we're going to have to work. And I know we've mentioned how much community engagement has been built into Vision Zero. I remember the conversation when we had about Vision Zero prior. So that's all I'll say about that. But I think tonight was a good success for not having votes and quorum. So with that, since we don't really have to do any sort of second and motion, we'll go ahead and end this meeting. And yes, Phil, you want to add?
Just want to make sure we have your follow-up items for the next agenda kind of listed out so we can kind of put it on record. Actually, typically in April, we do an RTD update. So that's typically when you have RTD come. But I think our April schedule is so full that we might want to postpone that off a month or two. So we did get the update on Gay Street that you wanted to hear about. So we've got that on our schedule. We want to talk about the transportation mobility plan and how it works with the enhanced multi-use corridors, and maybe a little bit more discussion on how the plans will kind of come together with that in Vision Zero. And then there is the Vision Zero resolution that you've asked for, as well as the update on the crash report and making sure we get the crash report to you correctly finalized. So those are the big four issues that we have. And again, I think we'll push RTD off just one more month and work it into your schedule that way.
No,
So
it
if that
seems
sounds good?
appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
Okay, I guess we're adjourned. Do we want to discuss board recruitment, or?
I think we'll need to do that at the April meeting as well. I think that's a good addition to start the discussion and figure out how we put that together. Who wants to be on the interview committee? If it's 1, 2, 3, or 4 of you.
I think two was. I think actually two was effective when it was
Okay.
Councilmember Osborne and myself. But the openings are listed on the PrimeGov sub Longmont site. Is that correct?
Right, we should have probably done a little bit more sales job with the people who are all here in the audience.
Probably
We just
should
missed
have.
them, so hopefully they can still hear us out there. But
Maybe throw a banner up on the website. You know, Transportation Board needs you. You know, that sort of a thing.
perfect.
Did we get that on the record? Because that was really good. Yeah. Okay, I think we're adjourned.